The action of the City Council. Councilman Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilman Fawcett, let him do it.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I'd like to take this opportunity to make a motion to appoint Shirley S. Butler Barlow to the remaining term of the Chuckatuck Borough, which ends December 31st of 2022.
Second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Johnson. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett,
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett,
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-0.
Is there any other new business items that require council action of City Council for consideration? Councilman Ward.
Yes. Okay, I move that the city attorney drafted a resolution for consideration at the February 17, 2021 City Council meeting that state that it is in the public interest that Councilman Leotis Williams submit a bid in the competitive seal bidding process for the city contract for landscaping service for the city-owned building.
A motion has been presented. Do I hear a second? Hearing none, I'm going to pass the gavel to Vice Mayor to chair the motion.
There's been a motion and a second on the floor.
That being done, I'll second Councilman Ward's motion.
It's been properly moved in second on the resolution as read. There any discussion of the motion?
I'll start.
Councilman Johnson.
Leotis, people like you. It's pretty obvious you're a pretty great fellow. 6 years ago, when I chose to run for council, I knew that when I was elected that I was going to have to make lots of sacrifices. My family, my friends, work, and we all make those sacrifices. But what I didn't realize at the time was that I would also lose business. I caught on pretty quickly that I lost a considerable amount of city business. I had a good business with the city. I didn't like it. I kind of talked about it a little bit at first, and then I read the Code of Virginia, and I realized that I was wrong and that it's just the way it has to be. We represent not only our city, our citizens, but its future. What we are being asked to consider is foreign to me because I would never have considered this something that I could vote in favor of. I'm concerned that this request may be viewed as an impropriety for our citizens. We would be insinuating that appropriate fulfillment of a contract, even for a number of years, is reason enough to allow that contract for an elected official. I'm not prepared to say that this is the right thing to do at this time. This action could potentially place a huge burden not only on us, on our citizens, on our employees, and leave a huge question of impropriety. This is not racial. Leotis, we don't do racial. One of your men came up, and my goodness, wasn't it wonderful when he said, Suffolk is not like a lot of places in the nation. We're not. We treat our citizens all with the same respect, and we view each other as family and brothers, and I feel that way, guys. But it's not racial. It kind of bothers me that people will insinuate that it is. All of us have made the choice to run for council. When you do that, you accept the Code of Virginia, which says no person elected or appointed as a member of the governing body of a county, city, or town shall have a personal interest in any contract with that governing body. Now then it goes on to say there is a provision that we can do a little addendum down here and have a resolution that states it is in the public interest for the member to bid on a contract with the city. You've been nothing but a wonderful employee to the city. I've heard that from everybody that you've worked with here. But for us to sit here and state that it's in this city and public's interest to let you continue with that contract, if there were no one else to do the contract, if you were a nuclear physicist and we couldn't find another soul, I'd say fine. But there are others that can bid on this contract and hopefully do a good job. Or that young man that came in that works with you, my goodness, he's the one that should be bidding on this contract with somebody's help. But I honestly believe that when we sit in this position, and this has nothing to do with anything other than I honestly think it's the right thing to do, that it is a sense of impropriety for the citizens of our city. And you're a great fellow, these are great people, and I support the community. Another one of you guys said we need to do what's right. My problem is, I would love to say, keep the damn contract. Who cares? It's great. You're doing a good job. But it's not right. It's not right for our citizens, in my opinion. So that's all I can say. I have to do what I deem right for our citizens. And I see too many implications, too many things can happen down the road for me to say that this is in the best interest of our city, of all of our city. I'm not sure it is. And for that reason, I can't support it. And I'm sorry, because we're going to be working together for the next 4 years, and 2 years for me, maybe whatever, but I'm sorry. This is not a good way to start off, but I cannot support it. I'm sorry.
Together, Councilman, Mayor Duman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I seconded Councilman Ward's motion for several reasons. One, it allows us to discuss what other people have been discussing for several days. I'm not pleased with how we got to this juncture, but fact remains we have. So I want to take a brief moment to be specific and provide full transparency to explain the process that brought us to this point. Hopefully with a full understanding of this situation, certain assumptions, innuendos, and insinuations will be squelched. I'd like to start from the beginning when I was advised that certain contracts Council Williams had with the city could be construed as a conflict of interest. The city attorney researched the issue and in addition was given a copy of an opinion provided to Mr. Williams' attorney from the Virginia Conflict of Interest and Ethics Council. The opinion offered by the Virginia Conflict of Interest and Ethics Council advised that pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3107, paragraph B, paragraph 3, the personal interest of a city council member in a contract was allowed for an existing contract only. Any renewal or opportunity to bid on future contracts would only be allowed when the contract is awarded, and I quote, as a result of a competitive sealed bidding where the governing body established a need for the same or substantially similar goods through purchases prior to the election or appointment of the member to serve on the governing body. However, the member shall have no involvement in the preparation of the specifications for such contract, and the remaining members of the governing body, by written resolution, shall state that it is in the public interest for the member to bid on such contract. The opinion went on to state, and I quote, the members of the City Council will need to pass a written resolution that is or was in the best interest of the public for Mr. Williams to bid on these contracts. This resolution does not need to be passed for the contracts as they currently stand, but should be done when the contracts come up for renewal. I think part of what is not being understood is the original contract is the original set contract plus the renewal periods that a gentleman alluded to earlier, and that renewal process requires a resolution from council. Or if Mr. Williams were to bid on another contract, it would require a resolution from council. Those formal opinions, the code and the opinion of the Virginia Conflict of Interest and Ethics Council guided future action by myself, the city staff, and council members. Once it was determined a resolution by council would be necessary to grant the renewal of his existing contract or the ability to bid on future contracts, I proceeded to poll members of council to gain consensus. This consensus would determine how to move forward. There was not adequate support for the first option of allowing renewal of the original contract. I then presented the second option, which would allow Councilman Williams to rebid his contract with the thought being it would be in the best interest of the public. There was no additional support for the second option. During the entire process, I kept the council and Councilman Williams informed. The reason stated to me by those in opposition to a resolution was that it would present an overwhelming appearance of impropriety if granted, and therefore was unacceptable. It should be noted that the reasoning of the majority was contrary to my opinion and another council member. I made my opinion clear to each council member. I do want to take the time to state unequivocally that as I polled council members, I did not detect any malice, ulterior motive, or prejudice that influenced their decision, and each member is entitled to their opinion. The public needs to know that the process followed to address was done strictly in accordance with Virginia Code and the Virginia Conflict of Interest and Ethics Advisory Council. As mayor, I am willing and dedicated to ensure that any options available to Councilman Williams or this council are afforded.
Are there any other councilman?
Go ahead, Donnie. You want to go ahead?
I'll do-
Go ahead.
Doesn't matter.
I'll
Doesn't
come in
matter.
on the back.
Doesn't matter. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the time to speak on this ethical issue. I think we've heard some talks tonight. I think some points have been missed on this, and I want to bring a few things out. There was a press conference last week in which I and other members of the City Council were called by name in dealing with Councilman Williams' conflict of interest issue. In my opinion, I and the other members of the council were slandered with vicious and improper statements, all inferring that we were opposed to Mr. Williams because he was an African-American businessman who won a council seat in November. Nothing could be further from the truth. This situation was not created by this council. I and the other council members congratulated Mr. Williams upon his victory and welcomed him on council. Mr. Williams has known for years that having contracts with the city would put him in jeopardy if he was elected to city council. It was his decision to run for office, and this action put Mr. Williams and his employees in jeopardy because of the conflict of interest. Let's be clear. It was his decision to run for council seat or retain his business contracts with the city. I also would like to point out that Mr. Williams and I have never had a conversation on this issue. He said he would like to call me, but never did. I assured him that I'd be willing to speak with him, but the call never came. Mr. Williams made a choice. His choice was to run for city council. The mayor called and asked my opinion, just like he just stated, on the contract. I assured him that this is how Mr. Williams became aware of my position, and the conflict of interest issues are a major ethical concern when one serves on city council. The mayor further asked me about the contract and the possibilities that I would be in support of a resolution that all council members would sign to allow Mr. Williams to bid on the contract. I replied in my opinion that I could not support such a resolution, for it created a conflict of interest in which a sitting councilman would have a contract of service with the city. The general public's perception would be that we are giving one of our own an inside and sweetheart deal. I cannot and will not be a part of something of that nature. Again, I cannot make my position any stronger. A sitting councilman must make every effort to being above board when dealing with conflicts of interest issue. I believe that Mr. Williams and his supporters have put the city council in a very unfair and difficult position. Whereas all of us support Mr. Williams' right to run for public office, he is the one who made the decision between keeping his contract or running for city council. I took an oath to serve this community to the best of my ability. I believe my position is quite clear in my service to our citizens. Let me repeat so that everyone understands, in contrast to what many of Mr. Williams' supporters proclaimed, this council members congratulated him on his election to City Council. We look forward to serving with him. But this conflict was created by Mr. Williams in his decision to sacrifice his contracts so that he could serve on City Council. In conclusion, I understood minority issues all my life. I myself am a minority and am quite sensitive to those issues. However, this is not one of those issues. It is strictly an ethical issue dealing with a contract providing services to the city in which the city councilman has that contract. In the past, other council members have given up contracts when they have become elected to city council. This situation is no different. Not even a special resolution changes that dynamic. It is and will always be a conflict of interest. I continue to have a problem with name calling and slanderous comments. I strongly feel that at a minimum, this council is owed an apology. I appreciate my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Roger Fawcett.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. First off, I want to start off and say Tim Johnson and Donnie Goldberg, you could not have framed this and made it and sounded any better than you did. And, you know, I want to just say a couple of things here, and I'm not going to drag this because you all have done a fantastic job stating the position, and I support you both, your writings that you just presented tonight. You know, my son and I were in business for 18 years in the same, almost the same type of business that Mr. Williams was in. And when I came on this council in 2012, my son and I, in a conference room, sat down and made the ultimate decision that we would never, as long as I was an appointed, elected official, that we would ever enter into any city contracts, just to keep it straight from looking like a conflict of interest. We could have came in here and blown these contracts up the size of the company we have today, but we've stayed clear of it, just so we wouldn't have our hands in it. Because the first thing you hear around when you start doing things such as appointing or giving a resolution is, y'all are doing backroom deals again. I've heard this since I've been on council since 2012. Every time we meet, we're doing backroom deals. And it's furthest from the truth. Everyone on this dais that's been up here with me, with the exception of Mr. Williams, has never done something of that nature. On Thursday, last week, I viewed that conference that was aired out on Facebook Live. And I am truly and sadly appalled by the conduct of a sitting council member. You can't say, well, I'm not here today representing a council member, I'm here representing my business. And I appreciate business. I appreciate everybody that's in business. Everybody out here is trying to do their best to do everything. But you don't get to choose what day of the week you want to be a council member. You took the oath up here, and you're a council member 24/7, 365 until you're into your term, or whether you decide to be here or not. And I'll tell you, I personally feel attacked because you never sat down and talked to me after you told me walking right by me in the last council meeting that you wanted to talk to me about something, but you never sat down and talked to me personally. You let the mayor talk to me, which he did, and I have no problem with that. But in my opinion, you should have pulled your pants up and you should have went ahead and talked to everybody yourself. But to take my integrity and drag it through the mud in front of two news meteors is the poorest conduct that I've ever seen. And that's not the way we've governed on this dais. Obviously, you didn't get informed properly. And as some of these folks have said, you knew right well coming into this council that you were going to possibly have a problem with these contracts. You were well informed, and you made statements that someone told you was going to be no problem, which whoever was at was giving you the wrong information. You went to the city attorney's office and asked for her to give you a decision, which he referred you to a private attorney to make it because you weren't a council member. And I read the same thing, that part of what Councilman Johnson had stated. And, you know, it's pretty clear to me. But the most important thing is here, you or me or anybody else, and it wouldn't have mattered if it was anyone on this dais, and if somebody else has a contract in this city that's sitting on this dais, needs to take a good look at it, because you ought to not be involved in it, just for the perception to the public and to let the public know. And I'm not saying you're not doing things in the best interest of the public, but you're not doing anything that any other contractor can't do. And I look at the other contractors that I'm in connection with that have contacted me since this is broke on Channel 10 News, that this city better take a good, strong look at resolutions, because what they do for you, why can't they have it? So therefore, there is a very, very big problem with this. I will never, ever support someone on this dais on a resolution to take and do business where you govern in this city. Never. And I am with Mr. Goldberg. This is not a racial issue. And I think in some cases that may be boundaries where it might have went. And you need to come in front of the public and say that it was not a racial motivated thing, and it was not, and you owe us an apology as individuals who you named, and you owe this council an apology for making us look bad in the news, and you owe this city of Suffolk that you wanted to represent an apology. That's what you need to do. Stand up and take the ownership of it. Until then, it's not going to be favorable. And I hope in the future, when you sit here and govern, you think real hard about how you want to put a council member's name on the floor or in the news or put us out there in harm's way. Just as much as they're our families as they were you trying to do for your families. My family doesn't appreciate it. And I don't tolerate that kind of action. It's inappropriate. Now, I had made an opportunity in my mind to ask a couple of things of you tonight. I could have censored you by law for your conduct and behavior, or I could have just asked you for a resignation. But I'm going to wait on that and see how this thing goes. But don't ever use my name again. You didn't come and talk to me about it before you do it. Or nor anybody else on this council use my name that I don't know about. Because it won't come out pretty, because I'll put it right here where the public is viewing this. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Any other comments?
Yes,
Councilman Ward.
I'd like to speak. Just want to say a couple of things. I just want to say that I had no intentions of these remarks. When I find out what was going on, and to hear or to know how the mayor wanted to possibility to see can he get the votes for the resolution. And after I talked with the mayor a few times, I understood something. I was talking to Councilman Lue Ward, and it took me to ask for a resolution in order for Councilman Williams, just for he or the people could see who voted against the bid or the job he had. All he wanted was come and allow the council to say what y'all saying tonight. And this is before the press conference. Sometimes it's bad, somebody got to do something else just to get justice for him. And that's all he wanted to say. That's all the mayor tried to get us to understand. And the mayor said he went everywhere and couldn't get a yes but me. So I said yes to anything that possibility that I felt was justice for the man named Lue Ward, the councilman. And I sit here and listen to a few of y'all, and I, one thing I do, I listen, and I might don't come off as well as some of the people be talking, but I do listen. And the only thing Councilman Williams wanted for 3 weeks, for you can come up and say what you're saying now. And the press conference was a week, maybe a couple of days ago. And it took me to come tonight because it wasn't on the agenda and it wasn't going to be on the agenda. So all he wanted was to see you say what you're saying now. And for some of y'all to say out your mouth, you have said things about me. You had said something about Mr. Williams. Don't come here trying to bash Mr. Williams when you done said something out your mouth against me.
Mayor, he's making a direct comment to me. I call for a
I didn't call no names.
Point of order.
Did I call any names? You called names. You talked to Mr. You talked to Mr.
Point of
Williams.
order.
And you talked to Mr. Williams.
Mayor, Vice Mayor.
All right, I call a point of order. We will not call names. We will stay to the point, but not call names.
Not
Mr. Vice Mayor, did you hear me call anybody name?
I wasn't really.
No, you got to listen now. You got this gobble. So
I know,
for you to make that statement, did you hear me call anybody name? I called the mayor.
Yes,
I didn't call Mike Doom, I said the mayor.
I heard that.
Did I call anybody else's name?
Okay.
Huh? Excuse me?
I don't know. Continue on.
Well, okay then, don't say, I ain't called nobody's name.
Well, you say.
But you're guilty, you must be guilty if you're gonna say I'm talking to you.
Who you talking?
I'm not talking, I'm talking about the first, somebody who said, out of order, about, I said somebody's name, that's what I'm saying. Okay, let me finish what I gotta finish.
Go ahead and finish
Well,
your comment.
like you said, that's what was the biggest problem with me, and a couple other problems, that people made statements, and sometimes you gotta watch what you say. They made statements. Because a man bid for a bid, and his bid is low, that means he did the right thing. You can't fault him for bidding when you got 21 other companies bidding. Statements come back to bite you. And you make statements on this dais that is not true. I wasn't going to say anything, but when you're telling something direct, you need an apology. I think we might have to give him an apology from the first beginning, how we treated him about this. We could have been talked. We could have been talked about this. This is not something we had to talk open. And Mr. Williams probably would have sit and listened. But all he wanted was, he wanted to vote. That's all he asked for. That's all he asked for. That's all he asked me, he wanted to vote. So he had to have a press conference to get a vote, Then I had to say what I had to say for a resolution to get a vote. No, he didn't want this being kicked under the cover no more.
Call for the question.
Well, here we go again.
Call for
I
the
don't think
question.
you ran for mayor.
I'm gonna let him finish.
I don't think you ran for mayor. You might want to be mayor, but you didn't run for mayor. And my other friend,
Councilman Ward.
we do have races, but we got to work at it. We got racial problems. We do. We just got to work at it. That's all. I wouldn't say all of us racist up here. No, I wouldn't say that. Like I said, I wouldn't even say that decision y'all made was racist. I wouldn't say that neither. But just happened to have a black person that owned it. And just like you said, that's how it looked. Just like Mr. Williams, that's how it looked at him also about the bid. Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor, and just before I call for the motion, I'm not going over all this other stuff that's been said, but I'm sitting here tonight as a person that will carry the motion, and as I stated to the mayor and I stated to Mr. Williams about this issue, that I didn't say I was going to vote for, against, or anything else. But it bothered me to a point when somebody used my name and say that I had voted against the issue that I had not, then that is something that I do not appreciate. If I said it, then I said it. But that was not what I said. I told him I had a concern with the resolution. That's what I told Mr. Williams. That's what I told the mayor. I did not tell him, either one of you, that I was going to vote against it, and I did not tell either one of you that I was voting for it. Now, did I? Right? Yeah.
Call for the vote.
I didn't tell you that I was voting for or against, did I?
That's correct. When I polled all the council members, your statement was, I have serious concerns, but I haven't decided.
Right, thank you. Mr. Williams, did I tell you that I was voting for or against?
There's a motion on the floor. I think you need to complete that motion, sir. And then when I have my chance to make comments, I will comment.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
No.
Councilmember Goldberg?
No.
Councilmember Johnson?
No.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
And I'm abstaining.
Mayor Duman? Can you-
Yes.
Thank you. The motion fails by a vote of 2 to 3 with Councilmember Fawcett, Councilmember Goldberg, and Councilmember Johnson voting in opposition.
Hey, gavel back. Okay, do we have any other new business items that require to ask the city council for consideration? Hearing none, we will move to announcements and comments, and at this time, we will ask everybody's favorite, the Media and Communication Relations Assistant Director, Tim Kelly, for any announcements.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, City Manager. Before I get to my